In my mind, I keep bringing it back to this conjunction between Neptune and Saturn at the 0 degrees Aries point. And with this new perspective that I've been thinking about with James Hillman, where he looks at things not to as something to be solved, like it's not a pathological thing to be resolved. I think that, especially in our culture now, we often bring this to a point where what's wrong with me? What am I doing? What can I fix? And what does that look like? Well, are you ever done? Like if you look at it in that perspective, are you ever finished? Like how do you stop digging? Um, I've been on a journey like this myself for quite a while, talking about this full moon in Sagittarius. I think backing it up a little bit to see how did we get here? How did this moment get shaped is important. And we're looking at a cycle that is at a full phase now that started as a new moon in Taurus. And the new moon in Taurus, I was talking about how uh, it was about somatics. It was about, how does this experience feel? And of course, we still have the Pluto Uranus trine with Sedna there and the Sun and Ceres. And like, who are we, and how has the ways that we've nurtured ourselves changed? Like, what is our identity? Have we identified with something that we're holding on to, that if we look at things through Hillman's perspective, is, a question that he often asked was, what kind of soul is trying to emerge from this? And how can we circle around this imagery to see it from a different perspective, to get a different angle? And so when I go back and I look at that conjunction between Neptune and Saturn, what kind of new structure is trying to come online? How is our soul trying to emerge in a new way here? And I think that it emerges a little bit at a time. It's like that spiral, outward. It never makes a circle, because a circle would be like a hamster wheel, but it continues around. And if you change the perspective of something that's spiraling, and look at it linearly, it could look like you're going backwards sometimes. You would keep going forward and backwards. But if you turn it another way, maybe that spiral's going up, and it doesn't quite, always make a graph that goes in one linear direction, but you're going a certain way. And I think that as we're all on a healing journey with these new perspectives trying to come online, you know, at one point we might see something different from at another point. And let's just say that something that we've always thought that this meant this, or this meant this, I identified, what are we holding on to? What kind of facts have we built a story around that we're holding on to that may change? um, if we are curious about, like, the sun has moved into Gemini at this point, and if we're curious, Gemini, about some of these facts, these communications that we're getting from the other parts of ourselves. Hillman always talked about the pluralistic mind, And I feel like that's kind of a principle of truth that comes from like IFS, interfamily systems. So we have these parts. They're basing things, they're doing jobs that they don't want to do. They feel like they've had to take them on. And, they're basing it on a truth where we couldn't, something that we couldn't make sense of at that point, but is that serving us anymore? And so the sun and Uranus were trying to break free and illuminate this and see it clearly. And so now, if you bring this to the full moon in Sagittarius, what kind of wisdom and what kind of higher perspective can we see now by turning towards our somatic experience and being curious about it? Maybe we can see something that we've looked at a situation, and it it always sent us down this shame spiral or a different way of thinking where we kind of held on to it and held it against ourselves and always felt like we needed to move away from it. But now we can maybe see it. It's like this flash of insight, this Uranian experience, this thing where we see it from a different angle that allows us to actually absorb some of the wisdom and take this belief and change it into a knowing, that somatic embodied knowing where um, we're not holding it against ourselves anymore. And now I'm kind of circling, but one of the other things I wanted to talk about recently is Chariklo. Um, she just basically turned retrograde in the last week, and Chariklo was the wife of Chiron, and she has a different way of healing. Chiron, as you know, had the wound that he couldn't heal. He healed all these other people, but he could never heal himself. And Chariklo was right there with him, his wife, and held space. And that's kind of what she's known for. Um, I found it interesting that she has rings like Saturn. And I take that symbolically to mean that she can hold a container and hold space for a healing and not press or try to accomplish something as if there's something to heal, as if there's something to be done about it. It's just to hold that space. And that is when we talk about parts work, that's beautiful, right? Because if the parts sense an agenda, we need this to be different, then they tend to back off and withdraw consent or just stop talking and go away. I mean, I was talking about it this way the other day. I was thinking, how would you like to be in relationship with somebody and they think they've got you all figured out and they know how you need to change, and like, how would you want to be in a relationship with somebody like this? That would be very frustrating because like nobody has anybody else all figured out, including the parts of yourself that are on the inside. So rather than looking at them as this process that needs to change, what if we were to just enter relationship with them in a different way? What if we were to change our perspective and see it from a different angle? Like, we just came from a Pluto square Mars, and I think that was probably bringing up some situations where we felt frustrated, where there was this somatic experience, because Mars is in Taurus here, and where we've been stuck. And the initial thoughts may have been to be frustrated about it, to react to it, the typical Mars response. But with Mars being in Taurus, it's asking us, how can you be present with that somatic experience, and that that need to react to material that's coming forward, that maybe there's no reaction that's needed. Maybe just the witnessing and the holding space and holding a container for it can allow us to relate to it in a different way and see the value in it. Like, what if the place where we've been the most wounded is our most precious gift, that we could, see things from a different perspective. Chiron is at the critical degree of Taurus right now, and getting ready to, or at of Aries, and getting ready to move into Taurus. And we're it's not the end of it. It's going to move into Taurus, then retrograde back into Aries before it moves on, for good, or at least for this cycle. Um, and so I think that, wounds to our identity and who we are is an important thing to be looking at right now. And I think this full moon in Sagittarius is giving us this higher perspective to be able to uh, see things, and how we've been relating to these things in a new way. And like I said, that direct experience, Sagittarius is about having a direct experience, a journey, going on a journey that changes who you are. And at a certain point, you kind of feel alienated from who you were. You're not quite you don't belong. You're a foreigner in a new land, and you're kind of in this in between space. And I feel like that's where we're at here. Because if you kind of put all this together, we're looking at Neptune in a new phase to Saturn. We're creating this new reality, these illusions of, the way things are, and the meaning of things has changed. And so to create this new structure, like, how can we just be in relationship with it? I really like the Chariklo turning retrograde in Aquarius thing here, where we can turn and hold space, and how can we make containment for ourselves to look at our wound, and relate to it in a new way. Because the Aquarius part of this is to be able to back up and get that higher perspective, and break free from this conditioning that we've had, that we've been living on, that we've been holding on to, that we've been, you know, and I think that Mars is almost out of range of a square to Pluto anymore, but it's also going into a last quarter quintile with Jupiter. And Jupiter is the ruler of this full moon. In fact, the moon and Jupiter are in mutual reception right now. And so, with Jupiter in Cancer, I feel like that is, what are our beliefs about safety? Like, what is it that makes us feel safe? That somatic experience that we've been talking about. Um, and with Mars culminating in this last quarter quintile, this is all about letting go of uh, conditioned, or what am I expected to be? who am I expected to be from other people, and what is that? What is the value of that compared to who do I feel like I am? What is this creative intelligence that's trying to come through, this soul-led stuff that's trying to really be born? Like births are messy and they come out, they're covered in blood, all this, and then they really, babies, they need the nurturing. They need that. They need us to hold space. They need us to reflect uh, their experience back to them, so that we can, um, so that they can learn to do this themselves. Nobody comes in here knowing everything. If we knew everything, we probably wouldn't be here. And so there's also Venus, which is culminating into Jupiter, and they're both in Cancer. And I think that's just another repeated theme of, what is the value of reflecting and being curious about our somatic experience? It's one thing to sit there and think, oh, I need to go through this list to figure out this is what I should do when I feel this certain way. Um, but it's another thing to actually hold the space for that feeling and sit with it and turn towards it. And when you can really do something like that and actually meet these parts of ourselves, I keep harping on this, you can really understand where they're coming from, what their perspective is. And it's not that we're going to change them or heal them, or you know go through something that where we have to get from here to here. But what if just the relationship changes? What if, like, you're happy to see them rather than feel this anxiety and this uncertainty or the fear or the shame? And what if, instead, that most critical part of ourselves, the South Node is in Virgo right now. What are these patterns that we're trying to let go of, that we may have, felt like we're not good enough, we're criticizing? And what if we looked at that critical part and they became our biggest cheerleader? And if we can change our relationship to them and understand that they're just trying to help, they're just trying to prevent something that they think is catastrophic that's going to happen. And how can we turn towards that north node in Pisces and surrender into the truth of who we are? And maybe maybe allow some of the boundaries that we've put up against these parts to dissolve away a little bit, so that we can be closer and be in contact and really feel, this relationship. I think that awareness is what's being called for here. And the awareness can bring a deeper wisdom. This Jupiter in Cancer ruling this full moon is illuminating where this new wisdom that we're getting is changing our perspective. And it comes in cycles and goes through phases. And I think that there's more to be revealed. But what a blessing. Like that, this energy is absolutely fantastic. And I can't say enough about that. And and I think that, it's going to keep getting better too. Like some of these transits that are coming, um, are going to really open up new opportunities for this to expand. And I think that, you know, as we move through this, the the task at hand here is to bring uh, that inner underworld experience in combination with how we are in the real world, and to be able to expand our awareness enough so that we can wrap our arms around both experiences and bring them forward. Um, Carl Jung talked about integration, and his goal was, he looked at it as this ladder to climb, and to integrate these parts of ourselves. I don't know. I think that there's kind of a balance to be struck between Hillman and Young, and to be able to, you know, move away from something that has brought shame and brought and we've identified with these things, but also with the Hillman side of it, there is um, an opportunity to embrace them and relate to them. And if that relationship changes, then maybe it is an asset rather than something to fear or something to be ashamed of, or, you know, because all of the experiences we've had that lead up to this moment have led up to this moment. And isn't that a beautiful thing? Okay, well, I've been going on for a while now. This may have been a little shorter, I don't know, but this is where I'm at. These are the things that I'm thinking about this time. Um, Thanks for being here, and I love that you guys are part of this community. If you like this content, like, share, hype, subscribe, do all the things. Tell your friends about it. And if you have any questions about this, put it in the comments. Let's talk about it. And as usual, if you'd like a reading, I'm open to doing that. I'll put that link in the comments and or the description, and we can book a reading and look at your chart together to see where these things are happening. Where is Chariklo going retrograde? Where is that calling to turn that space inward, to hold space for yourself and contain the wound, and allow that space to develop? Um, anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thanks, you guys, and we'll see you next time.